My boyfriend used my money to support a female college student behind my back, lying to me that it was for poverty relief. I ran into him at the mall while he was helping the girl pick out a diamond ring. Mia just wanted to try this ring on. With so many people watching, don't make a scene. But he overthought it. I'd long since become immune to those too. The business partner asked me, "Is this your husband?" I shook my head, "Just a kept man I'm raising." I immediately texted my brother. "About the arranged marriage, I agree. Just give me a few more days to wrap things up here before I come back." Ethan came home just as I booked my flight tickets for next week. All these years, my family has been against my relationship with Ethan, who had nothing to his name, but I wouldn't listen. I insisted on supporting him financially, even paying for his doctoral studies. If I hadn't gone to pick out an anniversary gift today, I wouldn't have known he and Mia had already reached the stage of selecting wedding rings. At that moment, Ethan placed a takeout box in front of me. "Mia was so frightened by you at the mall today that she didn't even go to evening study," I said calmly. "Registered your ID to buy a once-in-a-lifetime wedding ring. Don't tell me this is your proposal to me." Ethan had anticipated my reaction. Eagerly, he lifted the takeout lid, revealing steaming food still wafting with heat. "She contributed to our lab's award this time, so I gave her a gift. You know how hard she's worked. Mia was worried you'd misunderstand. She even personally bought you this seafood congee." Seeing me pick up the congee bowl, he mistook it as my acceptance of Mia's olive branch. He immediately took out his phone from his pocket. "After you finish the porridge, call and apologize to her. I'm afraid she'll be too scared to see me at school from now on." The next second, I grabbed the seafood porridge, ready to throw it into the trash. Ethan reacted swiftly, his face darkening as he rushed over to snatch it away. The scalding porridge spilled, burning my hand. After a sharp pain, it felt like thousands of needles piercing through. In the past, Ethan would have looked heartbroken and helped apply medicine. But now, it was as if he didn't even see it. He just kept blaming me. "Enough already, how many times have I told you? Mia is just my junior. You can usually overthink things all you want, but do you know how upset she was crying in the mall? The salesgirls all thought she was the other woman and spoke to her with sarcasm. Isn't it only right for you to apologize to her?" After saying this, Ethan saw that I had no intention of apologizing and stormed back to his room with a dark expression. I could hear him calling Mia, gently comforting her in a soft voice, just like he used to comfort me back then. Ethan and I were college classmates. We originally planned to get married right after graduation, but faced strong opposition from our families. To prove I wasn't wrong, I left my hometown to accompany him through his PhD, and he promised he'd never let me down. That was only 3 years ago. Now his love has gone sour. Ever since Mia joined his research team, Ethan couldn't help mentioning her whenever we talked. I should have seen the signs long ago. Like that time Mia accidentally sent me their kissing photo, and he claimed it was just a truth or dare game. Or how he'd avoid eye contact whenever I brought up marriage, always asking me to wait. I thought he just wasn't ready. Turns out he simply didn't want to marry me. If that's how it is, then we're better off going our separate ways. I took out the first aid kit, preparing to tend to my wounds, when my brother called. "I've sent you Liam's photos. Did you see them? After playing around with that pretty boy for so many years, you're finally ready to settle down. I've scheduled a meeting for you this weekend. Book your flight in advance and don't stand him up." I looked at my swollen, blistered hand, the pain making my eyes sting. "I won't. I've already booked my ticket. I'll be back next week." But I had no intention of telling Ethan. We'd been in a cold war these past 2 days. He was still waiting for me to make the first move. Then today, upon returning, I happened to be handling the follow-up arrangements for my job transfer. Ethan grew flustered, breaking the ice for the first time as he reached out to pull me into his arms. "Why are you arranging work matters? Are you leaving?" I gave a cold glance at the hand resting on my shoulder, noticing the heart Mia had drawn on his wrist with a ballpoint pen. My stomach churned with nausea so intense I couldn't suppress it. I brushed him off, not even sparing him a glance. Sensing my indifference, he awkwardly withdrew his hand and stood there, at a loss. Taking a break might be good. Once I finish this thesis, I'll take you on a short trip. Didn't you want to go to Rye Lake? We'll go on a road trip then, give you a proper chance to relax. Wanting to visit Rye Lake was something I'd mentioned long ago, but back then he was too busy playing savior to Mia, standing me up multiple times. I'd already gone there myself later, only to find that the much-praised Rye Lake wasn't all that special after all. I responded to him half-heartedly, my hands still busy with work. In the past, hearing such words from him would have had me eagerly packing my bags. But now, I just find it tedious. He always ends up canceling on me with some excuse or another. What was I ever so happy about? For Ethan to humble himself and try to coax me today was already rare. Seeing my continued coldness, he grew impatient and slammed the door as he left for the study next door. Exhausted, I rubbed the corners of my eyes and ignored him, turning on the computer beside me. The screen lit up with a flood of chat logs. Ethan's phone was mirrored on the display. The screen was densely packed with green chat logs. With Mia, Ethan acted like an awkward young boy, cautiously expressing his affection for her. I saw a little dog on the roadside today and took a picture just for you. Who do you think is cuter, me or the dog? So annoying, the old hag started nagging again. Want to grab dinner? Do you like the bag I gave you? It was custom made, there's not another one like it in the world. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through their chat history page by page. Countless photos and videos flooded in like a tidal wave, threatening to drown me. What are you doing? The door suddenly burst open, revealing Ethan standing there with a face ashen with rage. His gaze fell on the laptop in my hands, and he snatched it away. The force of his movement made me stumble forward involuntarily. Are you some kind of stalker? Is this how little you trust me? You have to meddle in my social life too? How many times have I told you, I hate it when people invade my privacy without permission? His voice dripped with disgust as he shot me a cold glance before quickly looking away, as if I weren't even worth a second of his attention. I know. You can go now. I leaned against the doorframe, struggling to maintain my posture, trying to keep whatever dignity I had left. Seeing that I wasn't making a scene as usual, he froze in place, a flicker of suspicion flashing in his eyes. These words. I was just venting. Don't take them to heart. You know, Mia is just a junior I'm sponsoring. There's really nothing between us. You shouldn't always be so suspicious, it's not good for a young girl's reputation. He explained awkwardly, but I merely nodded faintly. Mia was indeed his junior, a girl he'd brought out from the impoverished district. At first, he pitted Mia for being bullied due to her status as a financially struggling student. So he volunteered to become her sponsor, using my money to support her. From giving her money and gifts at the beginning to personally taking care of her later on, he truly mastered the art of having his cake and eating it too. I took a deep breath, my gaze falling on the calendar hanging on the wall. The date of my departure was circled in red. If Ethan had truly cared about me, he would have noticed it long ago. You've been with her for so long, you should give her a proper status. Before I could finish, Ethan's expression darkened, and he shoved me hard. You know perfectly well that it's you who's with me, so what's the point of saying all this? Trying to show how magnanimous you are? Chloe, you make me sick. I wasn't prepared and fell backward. My body slammed against a nail on the wall, the searing pain in my back turning my face deathly pale as I stared at him in utter disbelief. Yes, being with me was never his choice to begin with. It was only because I could provide him with material support. Rather than calling me his girlfriend, it'd be more accurate to say I was an ATM. Seeing me hurt, a flash of panic crossed Ethan's eyes as he instinctively reached out to help me up. But the moment I extended my hand, he withdrew his own. Don't go causing trouble for Mia again. She respects you, so please give her the most basic respect in return. His brows were furrowed tightly, his face full of reproach. I lowered my lashes, the corners of my lips curling slightly in what seemed like self-mockery. Respect? Her version of respect was being with him despite knowing he had a girlfriend? And to think they shamelessly used my money to fund their relationship? Recalling everything that had happened, I suddenly stopped feeling resentful. These years, I've lived too exhaustingly. I raised my head, meeting Ethan's indifferent gaze. Ever since we got together, he had always maintained this detached attitude, a world apart from the lively demeanor he showed around Mia. I suddenly wondered how he would react if he knew I was getting married. Ethan, I'm going to. Before I could finish, a clap of thunder outside the window startled me. I hadn't realized it had started raining. Watching the lightning and thunder outside, Ethan's face turned slightly pale. Without even waiting for me to get up, he hastily threw on his jacket and headed for the door. Mia is terrified of thunder. You can take care of the wound on your back yourself, I won't be coming back tonight. As if realizing how that sounded, he paused and added, I'll sleep on the couch. I know my limits, don't worry. With those words, he rushed into the heavy rain without looking back and disappeared from sight in no time. Struggling to get up from the floor, I carefully examined the wound on my back in the mirror. It was a deep gash, staining the pajamas I was wearing red. I numbly disinfected it with alcohol and left it at that. I had overestimated myself and underestimated that rusty nail. By the dead of night, I was struggling to breathe, my whole body aching as if it had been run over by a truck. My skin burned frighteningly hot, and I couldn't even move my hands or feet. I struggled to pick up my phone and dialed the emergency contact. Back when I used to work late, Ethan worried I might encounter danger on my way home, so he set his number as my emergency contact. It had stayed that way ever since. The call connected after a few rings. Ethan's voice came through the line, thick with sleepiness. Ethan. I think I'm infected. I can't move right now. Could you come pick me up and take me to the hospital? My voice trembled with fear and carried a faint note of pleading. I don't know anyone here, he's the only person I'm acquainted with. I couldn't think of anyone else to turn to for help. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, followed by the rustling sounds of someone getting dressed. I let out a sigh of relief, but then I heard a woman's voice on the other end. It was so close, clearly coming from someone lying right beside him. It's so late, where are you going? It's still thundering outside, I'm scared. Mia seemed to have been woken up, her voice laced with sleep and a hint of coquetry. After a long silence, Ethan's voice finally came through the phone. I called an ambulance for you. Mia's afraid of thunder, I have to stay here with her. I couldn't bear to listen any longer, mustering every last ounce of strength to hang up the phone first. The bedroom window had somehow blown open, letting in a fierce gust of wind that chilled me to the bone. By the time the ambulance took me to the hospital, Ethan still hadn't returned. On my discharge day, I spotted them holding hands in the hospital lobby. Mia leaned against Ethan's shoulder, her face flushed with coy delight. When I saw which department they were standing outside, my entire body turned ice cold as if plunged into a frozen cellar. Obstetrics and gynecology. Was Mia pregnant? Was the child Ethan's? Countless questions echoed in my mind. By the time I came to my senses, I was already standing right in front of them. When he saw me appear, Ethan instinctively glanced at Mia beside him and pulled her behind him protectively. His cautious demeanor made it seem like he was afraid I might do something to her. Why are you at the hospital? A flash of guilt crossed his eyes as he avoided meeting my gaze. I gave a bitter laugh and gestured to the hospital gown I was wearing, making sure he saw it clearly. Have you forgotten when I was hospitalized after stepping on a nail? I'd like to ask you, how could you ignore your own girlfriend when she's sick, yet accompany another woman to the gynecology department? What, is she pregnant? My voice wasn't loud, but the hospital was crowded, and soon many people gathered around us. Mia's face turned as colorful as a spilled palette, alternating between pale and flushed. Finally, unable to bear the pointing fingers and whispers, she crouched on the ground and broke down in tears. Seeing this, Ethan shoved me fiercely and scooped up the sobbing Mia in his arms. Chloe, you know perfectly well how important reputation is to a girl. Why do you have to be so aggressive? Mia hasn't been feeling well lately, so I just accompanied her to the hospital for a checkup. Your mind is filthy, must you assume everyone is as dirty as you? We simply have a normal sponsor relationship. How dare you slander her like this? Aren't you afraid of karma catching up with you one day? His words were sharp, his gaze full of disappointment as he looked at me. He shoved me hard, making me stagger. The wound on my back slammed against the wall with a heavy thud, the pain instantly twisting my features into a grimace. With that, Ethan carried Mia away, carefully shielding her face from outside gazes as if protecting something precious. Left standing alone to endure the crowd's whispers. Only when they dispersed did I finally take a deep breath. Returning home, I collected my packed luggage and tore the countdown calendar off the wall. The wound on my back throbbed faintly, yet in this moment, I seemed numb to the pain. Opening my phone's photo album, it was filled to the brim with pictures of Ethan. Some were of us together, others just of him. But most were of him with Mia. With my capabilities, uncovering evidence of his infidelity wouldn't be difficult. Back when he and Mia custom-ordered that ring, they'd even left behind a forever and always certificate, complete with both their ID numbers. In addition, there was a long bill clearly listing all the money Ethan had spent on Mia over the years. Every expense, big or small, was meticulously recorded by me. As for the rest, I'll settle the score with them. After preparing everything, I set off for the airport. Just before boarding the plane, I received a message from Ethan. It seemed he also realized how excessive his behavior had been today, and his message no longer carried his usual condescending tone. Mia was upset at the hospital today and isn't doing well. I spoke harshly in the heat of the moment, don't take it to heart. Didn't you say you wanted to eat your favorite wontons? I'll bring some home for you tonight. I had no desire to read further and switched my phone to airplane mode. How many times had he said the same thing? To this day, I still hadn't gotten to eat that bowl of wontons. Now, I don't care for it anymore. Just like him, I don't want him either. I had prepared myself to go home alone, but the moment I stepped out of the airport, I saw my parents at the very front of the crowd, eagerly looking for me, with my older brother behind them carrying large and small bags of luggage. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. Back then, I had stubbornly pursued my own happiness, and that decision had kept me away for 3 whole years. During those 3 years, I had been angry with them and never once returned to visit. So I hadn't known that, at some point, strands of white had begun to appear in their hair. Across the crowd, we gazed at each other from afar. I could clearly see my parents' reddened eyes and their slightly trembling lips. Chloe. Feeling the warmth of my mother's embrace, all the grievances I had endured over this period finally poured out. Ignoring the surprised glances from those around me, I clung tightly to my mother and wept bitterly, as if trying to cry out all the suffering I had endured over the years. Men are always silent. Unlike us, my father and brother didn't react as dramatically, but their eyes still reddened involuntarily, with unshed tears glistening in them. On the way back, I told them about what had happened over the years. Of course, I didn't mention the hardships I had faced outside. But with the scars on my back and my tear-swollen eyes, how could they not guess? Only after arriving home did I take a look at the photo my brother had sent me. The man in the photo was dressed in a military uniform, his sharp gaze making it hard to notice his actual features. He held a military cap in one hand, exuding an aura of heroism and sunshine. In short, he was a man brimming with masculine charisma. Compared to that pretty boy Ethan, it was like night and day. As my brother had arranged, the day of our blind date arrived quickly. Standing in front of the mirror, I looked at myself in the red dress, and a trace of nostalgia couldn't help but flicker through my eyes. The woman in the mirror had cascading curls, her bright red dress accentuating shoulders as fair as snow. Without a trace of makeup, her crimson lips alone were enough to take one's breath away. I adore vibrant red, but Ethan doesn't. He always says red looks too sharp on me, too mature, making the age gap between us more apparent. So I packed away all my bright clothes. My wardrobe now holds nothing but black, white, and gray. When I saw Liam, he was sitting by the window in the cafe, sipping his coffee. The winter sun cast a warm glow on him, softening the sharp angles of his face and adding a touch of gentleness. For some reason, my heart skipped a beat the moment I saw him. "Chloe," he said, as if we were already familiar, smiling as he pushed another cup of coffee toward me. His demeanor made me suspicious. "We." Before I could finish, he grinned and pulled out a small photo from his pocket. The photograph was slightly yellowed, its edges already beginning to wear. But it had been well preserved, anyone could tell its owner cherished it deeply. "This is me, next to your brother, and the little girl in my arms, that's you." My eyes widened as I stared in disbelief at the photo in the man's hand, my shock impossible to contain. "You're Liam. I didn't even recognize you." My face flushed instantly as I took in the man before me, radiating such striking confidence. It was just that I'd been too young back then, barely able to remember much. And by the time my memories started forming, he had already left. That's why I hadn't recognized him at first. "So you left back then to join the military?" Discovering the man before me was the older boy I'd known since childhood, I instantly felt the distance between us vanish. "Because you kept pointing at soldiers on TV back then, saying you'd marry a military man someday. That's why I chose to enlist." At his words, my coffee cup froze midair as I stared dumbfounded at the man across from me. His face was utterly serious, a faint smile playing at his lips. In that moment, all surrounding sounds faded away. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. Thump after thump, so violently it threatened to burst from my chest. And the fact that I was getting married eventually reached Ethan. He changed his number again and sent me countless photos. When I saw them, my heart was filled with sorrow. Then came his call. "Chloe, where have you been? Who's the bastard you're marrying? What, I wasn't enough for you, so you went looking for someone else? Did you see those photos? Do you think your fiancé would still marry you if I sent him your bedroom pictures?" I remained silent for a long time, listening to his fury on the other end of the line. After a long pause, he sighed and softened his tone. "Chloe, come back. I can explain everything. Didn't you want to get married? When you return, we'll get married right away, okay?" He pleaded, his voice even cracking with emotion. But I listened coldly to his words and let out a mocking laugh. "Do you think these photos can threaten me? Chastity hasn't been a shackle for women for a long time, Ethan. At worst, it's mutual destruction." My words stunned him, leaving him momentarily speechless. Just as he was about to say something else, a coquettish female voice came through the phone. "Ethan, why won't the card work?" "I really want this bag." I smirked coldly. I'd frozen all his bank cards the moment I left. Still dreaming of using my money to support another woman? Not a chance. "You froze my cards? Unblock them right now. Or I swear I won't forgive you this time." Hearing his threat, I immediately hung up. I thought I wouldn't be hurt by his words anymore, but as a gust of wind blew by, my heart felt utterly hollow. Before I knew it, tears had already streaked across my face. I remember my first meeting with Ethan. Back then, he was still a poor student, while I had already achieved some success in my career. During a business negotiation with a partner, I happened to see him working part-time at the club. Perhaps because of his good looks, he was being teased by a group of rich second-generation heirs. I couldn't stand it and rescued him from that crowd. After that, he stayed by my side. He needed money, and coincidentally, money was the one thing I had in abundance. I thought we would continue like this until we got married. But just a few years later, he told me he'd met a female student who was very much like him, and he wanted to sponsor her. I never doubted him, only increased his credit card limit again. Never did I expect to face such brutal betrayal. "Chloe? Which style do you like?" Liam's question pulled me out of my memories. I stared blankly at the row of rings displayed before me. "Which one? Maybe we should buy several, so you can switch them out later." He was about to ask the salesperson to wrap up all the rings when I quickly stopped him. I picked out the one that looked the most appealing to me. I never expected that the ring I had longed for all these years could be obtained so easily. But what I didn't anticipate was seeing Ethan standing at the entrance with red-rimmed eyes the moment we stepped out of the jewelry store. When he spotted me, he approached like an abandoned puppy, his gaze pleading. "Sis, do you really not want me anymore?" His voice trembled, tears streaking his pale face. A long time ago, he always liked to call me big sister. Later, he stopped because he thought I was too old. Looking at his sorrowful expression now, I felt not a ripple of emotion in my heart. Mia had arrived too, trailing behind Ethan. This time, her outfit wasn't as flashy as before, she looked more like a struggling student. But the resentment in her eyes didn't escape my notice. "Ethan, you were the one who left me first," I said seriously, correcting the mistake in his words. "I gave you so many chances, but you never took them. You never loved me, you only loved my money. Because I've taken care of you for so many years, my sudden absence made you feel the difference. The truth is, you never really loved me." I shook my head, looked at his reddened eyes, and sighed. "No. I love you, I really love you. Let's get married, let's get a license now, okay?" He mumbled, suddenly reaching out to grab me, only to have his wrist pinched by Liam. The man's explosive strength was overwhelming, causing Ethan's face to contort in pain as he writhed in his grasp, struggling to break free. "Chloe, please don't break up with Ethan because of me. There's really nothing between us, just a financial support relationship." Mia seized the moment to step forward, her pale little face looking pitiful enough to evoke sympathy. I let out a cold laugh and pushed her aside with a wave of my hand. "Financial support? All the way to the bed? I still have backups of your videos, want me to show you?" As soon as I finished speaking, their faces turned deathly pale. I didn't bother dragging it out any longer and walked away, holding Liam's hand. The wedding date was drawing closer, and Liam had taken marriage leave from the military to stay by my side during this time. On the day of my dress fitting, he was called away by a phone call. I knew there were many things in his line of work that couldn't be discussed, so I wisely didn't ask too many questions. Alone in the bridal shop, I tried on wedding dresses. Just as I had changed into one and stood admiring the woman in the full-length mirror, the door of the neighboring fitting room suddenly swung open. The moment I recognized the person who entered, my expression instantly turned cold. Ethan was dressed in a white suit, and as his eyes landed on me, a flash of admiration flickered through them. "Chloe, you look stunning in this wedding dress," he exclaimed as he stepped forward, reaching out to grab my hand. I responded with a sharp slap that sent his face twisting to the side, a dark glint flashing in his eyes. Then he immediately looked at me with puppy dog eyes. "Sis, could you help me check if this one I'm wearing matches yours?" I specifically asked the sales assistant. She said these two sets are designed as a pair. "Don't they look perfect together?" Hearing this, I felt so disgusted I wanted to tear off my wedding dress immediately. To make matters worse, the oblivious sales assistant kept gushing beside us. With the sales assistant's endless praise and Ethan's compliments ringing in my ears, my irritation reached its peak. Cold-faced, I ripped the wedding dress right off my body. Ignoring the shocked expression of the sales assistant, I slapped Ethan across the face again. "Aren't you disgusting? I'm not marrying you, so what the hell are you trying on?" Having been humiliated so many times, he finally couldn't take it anymore. With an ugly expression, he grabbed my wrist, but before he could say anything, a strong force pulled me away from behind. By the time I realized what was happening, Ethan had already been sent flying in a parabolic arc. I crashed into a warm embrace, my nose filled with the masculine scent of a man. For some reason, whenever he was around, I always felt a sense of security. "You. Chloe, did you see that clearly? He's just a violent brute, are you really going to marry him?" Ethan scrambled up from the ground in a fury, gingerly touching the scratch on his face that made his features contort in pain. He pointed at Liam angrily but didn't dare to actually fight him. After all, Liam had spent years in the military, training daily, and his muscles were visibly defined even through his clothes. One glance at him was enough to inspire fear. Ethan's face darkened, and suddenly his gaze fell on me. "Sis, you only married him to spite me, didn't you? You love me so much, no matter how late I came home, you'd always have a warm meal waiting for me. How could you bear to leave me?" "I know I was wrong, I'll definitely keep my distance from Mia from now on. Please don't leave me, okay?" His eyes brimmed with tears, enough to move anyone to pity. "But Ethan, you were the one who abandoned me first." I took off the wedding dress that had been cut to shreds and paid the bill under Ethan's pleading gaze. "Ethan, don't degrade yourself." With that, I took Liam's hand and walked away under everyone's watchful eyes. As I passed by him, I faintly heard a sob. But I would never feel sorry for him again. Ethan and Mia never left. Somehow, they managed to rent the apartment next door, and they knocked on my door every single day. Fed up, I decided to call security to have them removed. But then, Mia showed up at my door when Ethan wasn't around. When the knocking started, I thought it was Liam's food delivery. Instead, Mia's face appeared when I opened the door. I instinctively tried to shut the door, but she blocked it with her body, her face twisted with resentment. "Chloe, thanks to you, I've lost everything now, money, men, everything. Seeing me like this, you must be feeling so smug, aren't you?" Her eyes blazed with fury, those beautiful orbs brimming with venom. I merely cast her a fleeting glance, curling my lips into a cold, disdainful smirk. "Never had, never lost. Every penny you've spent these years was mine. As for the man, he's just trash I discarded, only you would treat him like treasure." As my words landed, her expression twisted into madness, and she cut me off in a rage. "Shut up. I've suffered so much since childhood, wasn't it only right that you treated me well? Since childhood, my family never treated me well. If I hadn't met Ethan, I would have been forced to marry some old bachelor by now, stuck in the slums breeding like a sow, litter after litter. You're so wealthy and surrounded by people who love you, what's wrong with letting me have Ethan? Why are you so selfish?" Listening to her self-righteous words, I was utterly dumbfounded. Her miserable childhood had nothing to do with me, I didn't create her tragedy. Ethan is the best person in the world to me. He buys me beautiful clothes, expensive cosmetics, and takes me to all kinds of high-end places, things I've never experienced before. And I'm pregnant. Her voice grew quiet as she lowered her head and muttered to herself. "Let's be honest, you just love his money, don't you?" I interrupted coldly, my patience wearing thin. She froze for a moment, then shook her head vigorously, hastily denying it. "As for that child you mentioned, it's not Ethan's at all, is it?" I sneered, pointing directly at the belly she'd been clutching. "What nonsense are you talking?" "This is Ethan's child," she retorted nervously, her hands tightening around her stomach. I didn't bother arguing further, simply slapping the evidence I'd prepared onto the table before her. The moment she recognized the figures in the photographs, her face drained of color and she swayed unsteadily. Where did you?" "I hadn't planned to confront you now, but you kept pushing your luck by dancing in front of me. Mia, did you really think I was afraid of you after all your provocations? You've been stringing Ethan along while entangled with other men. You probably don't even know who the father of your baby is, do you?" I narrowed my eyes with a cold, mocking smile. "The baby isn't mine?" A man's voice suddenly came from the doorway, causing Mia's body to involuntarily shudder upon hearing it. I glanced at Ethan standing at the door and considerately stepped aside to give them space. But as I passed him, he reached out to grab my wrist, only for me to deftly evade his touch without a word. I used to love the lotus fragrance on him the most, but now he's covered in filth, and I can no longer find that initial flutter in my heart. Outside the door, Liam stood waiting for me not far away. The man stood under the streetlight, the warm yellow glow illuminating his face. He looked at me from afar, smiling as he reached out his hand. My happiness was waiting for me just ahead. On the eve of the wedding, I went to bed early to ensure I'd be in good shape for the next day. Ethan never left, standing outside my door the entire time like a silent statue. Snow began to fall outside, the flakes drifting down and settling on his shoulders. Wearing only thin clothes, he stood motionless in the cold as if he couldn't feel it. I saw his figure from the window, unable to describe the feeling in my heart, so I silently drew the curtains, completely shutting out the outside world. Also missed the look in Ethan's eyes as he lifted them the moment the curtains were drawn. Desperate and resigned. On the wedding day, the heavy snow continued to fall outside. The world was blanketed in white, making it hard to distinguish my pristine wedding gown from the snowy landscape. For some reason, my heart remained heavy, as if something ominous was about to happen. Yet the moment I saw the man in military uniform, all my uneasiness instantly melted away. Liam stood there in his impeccable uniform, his chiseled features softening the moment our eyes met, a flash of admiration crossing his gaze. Ours was a military wedding, and many of his comrades had gathered to witness our union. Vast stretches of green added a touch of vitality to the snow-white ground. Holding my father's arm, I walked step by step toward the man not far away. At this moment, I was closer to my happiness than ever before. Just as my father was about to place my hand in his, a deep male voice suddenly called from behind. "Wait." My back stiffened as I turned around in silence. Despite my repeated warnings before the wedding, that no one without an invitation should be let in. Yet he still managed to sneak in somehow. Gone was the disheveled appearance of recent days, his hair was meticulously styled, and even his clothes were impeccably pressed, without a single wrinkle in sight. And that outfit he was wearing. My brows furrowed tightly as I stared unblinkingly at his clothes. It was the same suit he'd shown me on the day we went wedding dress shopping. I didn't understand what he meant by this, but I stood quietly beside Liam, gripping his hand tightly as if his presence alone could shield me from anything. The guests murmured among themselves, while my parents' and brothers' expressions darkened. "Who let him in? Get him out of here, now. My brother has a fiery temper. If it weren't for me holding him back these past few days, he would have already settled scores with Ethan." Now seeing that Ethan dared to ruin my wedding day, the fury in his heart became increasingly uncontrollable. "Brother, Ethan opened his mouth to say something, but barely got 2 words out before my brother cut him off. "I don't have any brother as shameless as you. Get the hell out of here and stop being an eyesore." Exchanging a glance with Liam, my brother cursed under his breath as he stepped forward, wrapping an arm around Ethan's neck to drag him out. Ethan, standing at 1.8 meters tall, was still half a head shorter than his brother and Liam. Usually lazy and never working out, he looked as pitiful and helpless as a plucked chicken between the 2 burly men. His brother effortlessly grabbed him by the neck and dragged him outside. He struggled in vain, unwilling to give up. Chloe. Don't get married, I beg you, don't marry him. Come with me, I'll make you happy, I'll marry you." I've waited years to hear these words, and now that they've come, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I used to think love was something extravagant, but... I glanced at the man beside me, his eyes downcast, always attuned to my feelings. "It's time to exchange rings." With a smile, I reminded him, reaching for a pair of rings and gently sliding one onto his ring finger. "The ring finger connects to the heart, from now on, our hearts beat as one. Happiness, it turns out, is just within reach." Shortly after our marriage, Liam went away on a mission. To prevent Ethan from causing trouble again, I moved in with my parents after Liam left. I didn't deliberately seek out news about Ethan, but I often came across updates about him online. He married Mia. After all the twists and turns, they ended up together in the end. With their stunning good looks, they became the most popular couple bloggers online. It was as if all their past scandals had never happened. Until Mia gave birth to their child, and the couple made headlines again. This time, the trending topic was about Ethan abusing Mia and their newborn baby. It said that when they were discovered, both the adult and child were covered in wounds, some fresh, some old, with not a single unmarked spot left on their bodies. Ethan had already vanished without a trace. As the case came to light, their past affairs resurfaced once again. The love story between a poor student and their benefactor, once praised by many, had now become a cheap joke on everyone's lips. Ever since I came across this news, I've been restless. After all, Ethan hasn't been found yet, and there's a strong chance he might come looking for me. For this reason, Liam specifically took time off to stay by my side. But despite all precautions, while Liam went to buy me milk tea, Ethan took me away. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a warehouse. Ethan's hair hadn't been trimmed for a long time, grown long enough to cover his eyes, making him look more sinister. His face was haggard, but the moment he saw me wake up, a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I studied his expression, feeling somewhat unsettled. Ethan right now seemed truly abnormal. His cruel methods had even led him to be classified as having antisocial personality disorder. My own death wouldn't matter much, but now. I glanced carefully at my abdomen, where a child connected to me by blood was growing. "Sis, you're awake. Don't be afraid, I just want to talk with you. It's been so long since we've spoken face to face like this." He let out a bitter laugh, kneeling before me as he untied the ropes binding me. "Sorry for keeping you so long, sis. Mia made you unhappy, so I'm done with her. I won't let anyone who's hurt you get away with it. Do you think I'm cruel? No, this isn't enough." He shook his head, his expression growing increasingly deranged. Seeing him like this, my fear deepened, but afraid of provoking him, I forced myself to appear calm. "Ethan, it's not too late to turn yourself in." Seeing the once high-spirited young man reduced to this state, it would be a lie to say I'm not sad. Ethan was practically raised by my own hands, and to have come to this point, it's hard to say who's right or wrong. Turn myself in? I won't turn myself in. There are things I haven't finished yet, I can't go to jail. His gaze fixed on me was chilling. I immediately understood what he meant by unfinished business. To save my own life, I could only plead with him earnestly, but he was beyond listening now. Watching him stand up, I closed my eyes in fear, bracing for my end. Yet after a long wait, I felt no pain. I opened my eyes, only to see Liam standing protectively in front of me. His tall figure completely shielded me as he relentlessly threw punches at Ethan. Fearing it might turn fatal, I quickly stepped forward to pull him away. I had never seen Liam like this before, his entire being radiating a dark intensity, his gaze toward Ethan filled with unprecedented murderous intent. Without glancing at Ethan lying on the ground, I grabbed Liam's arm and pulled him toward the exit. But just as we stepped out of the warehouse door, Ethan, who had been silent all this time, suddenly let out a low chuckle. Struggling to get up from the ground, he wiped the blood that had trickled to the corner of his mouth. A red light flashed in my eyes, and the warehouse suddenly caught fire. The flames grew fiercer, creeping toward Ethan's position, licking up his shoes. Yet he seemed to feel no pain, only staring at me with eyes full of longing and reluctance. "Sis. I'm sorry." At last I understood what he meant by unfinished business. He said everyone who had hurt me would pay the price, including himself. Liam pulled me to a safe distance before rushing to find a fire extinguisher. But the flames were too fierce, devouring everything around us. By the time the fire was completely extinguished, the warehouse had been reduced to ashes. No trace of Ethan's existence remained. Leaning against Liam, I silently gazed at the ruins before us. The past is like smoke, never to be seen again.